It'll log me in. I know those of y'all on Zoom, looks like you all have your mics muted, but if somebody could unmute your mic and talk to me just so I can make sure that my sound is working over here, that'd be great.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Let me switch webcams. Okay, there. Okay, I'd like to welcome those of you who have logged into this Zoom Q&A for your major project. Just to cover some business first, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that the deadline for the project is going to be on Sunday, November 24th at 11:59 p.m. That's a week later than it was posted in like your syllabus and your calendar. I granted you guys a week extra to work on your project. It's still due before you go out for Thanksgiving break. That was also kind of my gift to you to make sure you get it over and done with before you have a week off for your break. Your MindTap assignments, however, I did not change the deadline for them. All of your MindTap assignments that are connected to this project are still due this week, Sunday by midnight. And then next week we'll move forward into your next module for the final exam. So you will have employment law chapter to work on next week. As you wrap up your project. You are still welcome to, of course, wrap it up early and get it done sooner. I just wanted to give you that extra week to give you a little bit more breathing room from finishing this last exam before you have to wrap up your project. So jumping into that, I posted the deadline. It should be updated in the assignment Dropbox. I still have probably a half a dozen drafts that I'm still working on giving feedback for in my email, trying to catch up with that. I appreciate your patience. I'm still going to be accepting those in the next couple of days if you have a draft to send me, so that I can make sure I get those done in time to give you some feedback before you finally submit it. And I'm trying to click through emails about the project to make sure I'm answering questions and not letting them stack up behind the drafts. So if you've emailed me with a question and it's not a draft and you haven't heard back from me right away, I might have accidentally put it to the side in the drafts that are like, that I have more time to go through them. So please email me again or text me that you have a question or you want to set up a office visit or meeting to chat about your project so I can make sure to, bump that ahead of the line in your emails that I'm looking at. Just jumping on Coursera, here's the announcement I posted today with the Zoom link, and I will get this downloaded from the cloud. It's currently recording to the Zoom cloud, and I'll download it and upload it to YouTube because that's an easier way for you guys to view videos from anywhere. And then I'll post the YouTube link once I have this recorded, uploaded. I posted a few just announcement kind of tips. I'm going to go over those really quick before I take your questions. To just keep in mind that this project counts as much as an exam grade. So I want you to do your best on it. It gives you a little bit more control than you do with an exam where you don't know what the questions are going to be. It's in a timed environment. In your project, you can invest as much time as you have to invest in it. Take your time, make sure you've got everything included, that kind of thing. But just, recognize that it counts as much as an exam. So that can really help or hurt your grade. Your projects need to all be submitted for the final copy as a single file. So some of you that have sent me drafts have sent me links to multiple documents or individual attachments. And, it's fine for a draft, but for your project, I want to make sure that you get credit for everything you submitted. I don't miss anything. And the best way I found to do that is to have them all in one document so I can scroll up and down to all the different pages to make sure you've included everything that's necessary. So there's lots of ways you can do that. I posted 3 potential options. You can merge them all into a PDF using a PDF merger. There's Google Doc plugins, all that kind of stuff, or other software like Adobe. You can print them and just scan them with your cell phone and upload that PDF. That way, that's an easy way to combine them all. Or another way you can do it is in the document you're doing your project in, whether it's Microsoft Word or a Google Doc, you can take a screen capture of a completed government form, like your PDF form, and you can paste that, crop it and, make it full size on your page and include it in your document that way. If you are going to go that route where you're including, screen capture images within your document, I recommend you do the final version saved as a PDF or print to PDF. That way you can make sure you've locked all those images in place and they don't accidentally go on top of each other or cover up each other, because you want to make sure you get credit for all the documents that you have turned in and complete. And then another reminder, it's in the syllabus, it's in the instructions, it's posted here, but I want to remind you again, please don't plagiarize someone else's work for this project. If you have any questions about finding something on one of the resources I've given, or you're having trouble with the link working, please reach out to me. Don't go to Google, and definitely don't go to other websites outside of what I've indicated for you to use on the project. Of course, part of that is because I want you to submit student created work for the documents you're creating yourself and not just copy and paste someone else's form. But also it keeps the scope of the project narrowed down to just things from these resources. So if you come across in your research that it suggests you get, workers' compensation insurance or something like that, from the Department of Labor or the Department of Revenue, you can know confidently that that's going to be outside the scope of the project because those are not websites that I've listed. The only websites I have listed that are authorized resources are the Georgia Secretary of State's website, the IRS website, and then I have a link to the official code of Georgia, which is only going to be used in one of the more rare types of business entities that is not typically one student's form because it's a complicated entity to form. It's completed only through submissions to the Superior Court, and drafting those documents is a lot harder than filling out government forms. So as you do your research, if you're coming across an entity that you think you want to form and it's becoming very difficult or you're not really sure where to go, that's another chance you could reach out to me or go back to the Secretary of State's website to do research of what might be a better option for you. Sample letter I've provided just as a sample for you. You can use as much or as little as you want. There are not particular things I'm looking for in those blanks. I just have them in there so you can just write whatever you want. And just remember, your choice of entity, if you look at the grading sheet, reflects 2 letter grades on your final grade. So make that decision carefully because 20% of your grade that's really easy to lock in or could be lost very quickly with a choice that is not a good choice to protect yourself from legal liability. This is an academic exercise in a business law class. So I want to see you making good choices with business entities that's going to protect yourself. Okay, so from course done, to get to the major project resources, you're going to click on content, and it's its own module for the major project. There's links individually for chapter 16, 17, 18. But if you click on the major project link itself, I have overview of the project, instructions, the grading rubric, PowerPoint presentation that combines information from all 3 of those PowerPoint lectures from each individual chapter, in addition to having slides that will give you specific help and tips for your major project. There's a sample cover letter I was just telling you about. And then these 2 video links are from previous semester's version of exactly what we're doing right here, which is this Q&A session where you guys can ask questions. So if your question wasn't answered today or you think of something later, it might have been answered in one of these, or you can just email me or text me for a question. And then these are the only 3 resources that are approved outside use of obviously whatever I have on Course Den and myself and your textbook. And those resources are the Georgia Secretary of State's website, IRS website, and the official code of Georgia annotated. And then if you work with a partner or partners, you can work in a group of no more than 3. This is the group member evaluation form. Everybody who works with a partner needs to submit this individually into the assignment Dropbox. If you work with a partner or partners, I only need 1 copy of the project. There's no point in me grading the same project twice, so just submit 1 version of the project, and then everybody will submit that member evaluation. So if you worked with a partner, 1 partner submits the project and both partners separately, individually will submit that group member evaluation form. Explaining that, how you contributed to the work in the project. And then this is the link for the assignment Dropbox where you'll submit your project. If you have a draft of a project, you want feedback, please don't use that assignment Dropbox until that's your final version. Send drafts to my email so that I'll know to look at them ahead of the deadline, because I'm not going to click on that assignment Dropbox until after the deadline for these projects to be submitted. And it probably will be a little bit after that because the deadline, since I pushed it back, is like the Sunday before Thanksgiving break officially starts. But I know a lot of folks like myself will be starting Thanksgiving break like Friday night going into that week. And I'm traveling out of town with my family. And so I very likely won't, will only sporadically be checking my email over Thanksgiving, and definitely won't start grading these things until we get back after the break. But I do want you guys to have them turned in before the break because I want you guys to be able to relax and not have this project hanging over your head while you're out of school for a week. Okay, so with that said, I will open up the floor to those of you on this call or in the room if you have any questions that you'd like to ask about the project.
Okay, so you got the links posted, right?
Mhm.
For the websites we need to go through
Yes.
for the tax information. Okay, so I went to the IRS website. And so we're doing a limited liability company,
Okay.
and we would go to file in the IRS, and basically, I don't like it.
You don't want to file anything with the IRS. So for this project, remember this project is just an academic exercise. So it's like a pretend thing. You're using real life resources, right? Your real life government forms. But for the project, all I want you to do is PDF versions of forms. So the question here in the room was about the IRS website. So I'll just go ahead and click that while I'm sharing my screen. And from the IRS website, you know, as you're doing your research, if you've come here, it's very likely that you've realized in your research from either the project instructions or the PowerPoint or the Secretary of State that one thing that I'm asking you to get for this project is to request an EIN number. And an EIN number, think of that as kind of like a social security number that you have as an individual here in the United States. It's a unique identifying number for this business entity that you are creating from scratch. And so if you're looking for the form that you need, you can go to the search bar and you can search for EIN application and see what you come up with. And so these are the search results that I got when I was looking for an EIN. And you can see that it gives me some PDF options. That's what I'm looking for. We're not looking for this link to file online. There's no fee associated at the IRS for requesting an EIN. So I have had students in the past like go through all the process of requesting one in real life. It's not the end of the world if you've done this, but I don't want you to do this because it does give you a real life EIN number that's tied to you and your information. And I just don't want someone in the future to have, you know, a letter or a phone call or knock at the door saying, hey, you haven't been paying taxes for this entity that you registered back in 2024. What's up? You know, again, that's just a hassle you don't need. So in order to not request one in real life, you want to use the PDF version of these forms. So with your project, all you would turn in is this first page. Second page, do I need an EIN? You can ignore that because I just told you for this class, you do need an EIN. But I do want to also draw your attention to this PDF document as well, which is the instructions for this form. It's a separate document that the federal government provides. And you can see the instructions, you know, the form itself is like one page, but these instructions are 6 pages long. In the beginning of these instructions, it gives you general information about this form. And starting right here on page 3, specific instructions that go line by line. And so that's really useful to understanding how to fill that form out. Specifically, it gives you information like, you know, you look right here, it's like type of entity. Fill it out this way if it's a sole proprietorship. Fill it out this way if it's a corporation. Fill it out this way if it's a personal service corporation. If it's a nonprofit, do this. It's an estate. You know, all these different kinds of situations. Government, tribal government, household employer, disregarded entity like an LLC. I mean, it gives you specific instructions for different types of situations. And that can be really helpful to fill out a form properly, is understanding what your specific situation is, and then how do those instructions apply to you in that situation. Okay.
So so you know we're doing a limited liability company.
Okay.
We need an EIN.
Mhm.
We need
No matter what kind of entity people are forming for this project, they're going to need to submit that EIN request form.
and then through Georgia, what's the document called that we would probably need?
There's more than one document
Okay.
that you'll need from the Secretary of State's website. And that's going to be part of the research that you do for this project is,
So we need to
if you know what kind of entity you're forming, like you say you're forming an LLC, you know, as you learn about LLCs and what you're forming, you know, this website will help you find out what you need to submit to form your LLC, how to start a business, all that kind of stuff. I will take you, let me fast forward your research a little bit to this link right here that just has the word forms on it. It's from that front page that the link on CourseN takes you to. And this is kind of a shortcut. There's other ways to get to some of these PDF forms, but this is just a shortcut to get to the list of all the downloadable fillable PDF forms that are available on the Secretary of State's website. There's filing procedure forms, there's filing templates, forms to fill out, all these different related documents. I just want to warn you that as you're looking at this list, not everything that has, like you said, you're doing an LLC, not everything that has the word LLC is going to be appropriate for the project. So I'll give you an example of something not to include. For example, right here, it says application. It's at the top of the list because it's, alphabetical order. So application, certificate of authority for an LLC. You see the word LLC, you might think you need that. So you click on it, and right here at the top, it says application for certificate of authority. That sounds like it's important. You might need it. It says for a foreign limited liability company. Nobody's project in this class is going to qualify for needing this form because everybody in this class is creating a brand new from scratch small business in Georgia. So you're creating a new, hasn't existed before domestic entity. So if it says foreign, anything on it, that's an improper document. It would cost you points on your project. I'll say the same thing for anything with the word amended in it. Sometimes people are tempted to use a form where it says amended annual registration. Same thing. You're forming a brand new business. The project takes place at the very beginning of the timeline where you're forming this new business. So if a form you think you want to include uses the word amended, resist the urge, don't include it because there's nothing to amend yet since your business has yet to exist until you create it with these documents for the project. And then I'll show you an example of like a form that is good to use for the project. Here's the name reservation form. So this is a form where honestly in real life, like not everybody completes these forms, but for the purposes of our project, it's recommended to start here when you look at the filing procedures document on the Secretary of State's website. And I want you to include this form on your project because it's an opportunity for you to show me what you know. It demonstrates that you know how to properly name the type of business you're forming. Do you know how to give a full legal name to an LLC? It's not just the name of the business, but it's the name of the business with appropriate suffix indicating the type of entity it is. Same thing if you're forming a corporation or whatever, nonprofit corporation. If it's a nonprofit, it's got to meet all those requirements to form a corporation in addition to requesting that nonprofit status. So on this form, finding out that you need the form and including it, that's part of the points, is identifying the document you need. And then the other chunk of points for these documents is, did you fill it out correctly? Well, you can see on this form right here, it's relatively straightforward, name, address, email address, that kind of stuff. And then the other thing to earn full points on this form is make sure that you indicate 3 different choices, 3 name variations for your business, potential name variations, and that they all are a full legal appropriate name for your business. Because you send in this form and you send in the money and they'll reserve whatever you ask them to reserve. Whether it's an appropriate name or not, you spent the money and they'll save that name for you. But if it doesn't have that LLC or limited or whatever at the end, then it's not an appropriate full legal name for your business.
Okay, so really, if we could click the filing procedures for a limited liability company on this website, we can figure out all the tax documents that we need to read.
This is a good place to get a lot of the basics. I even posted that in my announcement. Like, if you're really confused and you don't understand, you can do just the minimum stuff right here and pass the project. There's just other things in the instructions and stuff that I've asked you for, like, including a cover letter, maintaining the business formalities, showing me that you've got a separate financial record for the business and meeting minutes for the business, like those kind of things. And then I've asked everyone to include a governing document. So what's the governing document for your type of entity? Looking in the textbook for what it should include and making sure you kind of follow that path in your textbook for including the appropriate things in the governing document. So, for example, your question is based on your project, which is a LLC, right? So do you know what the governing document is called for an LLC? Okay. well,
Probably was.
if you were in chapter 17 looking for that, you'd come across an operating agreement. And there's a section in your textbook that says an operating agreement would typically include these provisions. There's 6 things. That's what I'm looking for when I'm grading your work, is those 6 things. And then, of course, the difference between a draft and something that's actually been executed is going to be that it's got a signature section at the bottom. So it says, executed on this date by this person or these people.
So.
And that's going to be like
Great.
your names, you don't have to have a real signature if you're not printing it out. If you're just doing all digital, just use a curvy font or draw, squiggle with your mouse or something like that. But
So
I'm looking for signature, name, printed, and then your capacity for signing. So it's not just your name, but you're telling the world, I signed this because I am, an LLC. You're the owner of an LLC, so you're the member of such and such LLC.
Okay.
So you want to put all of that in your signature block to show not just who you are, but like why you had the authority.
Gotcha.
Then I see something that popped up in the chat. Okay, so the question in the chat is there a specific registered agent that you're supposed to use? And there's not. I mean, you can indicate that you understand the role of a registered agent by just like making up a law firm, or, you can just say, I'm going to be my own registered agent. You can name someone else. But the idea is that you're, again, like in some of these forms, as you fill them out, you're showing me what you have learned and understood from the book, and you understand kind of that role of someone being your local representative to receive official correspondence and stuff like that on your behalf. So you can make it up however you want. Just show me that you know kind of what that role is for.
Thank you.
Yes, I think I heard somebody on the Zoom.
I said thank you.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
Got a quick question here.
Sure.
What about like a trademark or like a service mark for your?
Those are not required for this project. So I know you can get those also from the Secretary of State. So you wouldn't like lose points for including an application like that, but it's not going to be a necessary like part of the requirements. It would just be extra. So I don't take off points if you include like extra stuff on your project, unless it's improper extra stuff. So if you're including documents from the IRS, that's an authorized resource. It's not going to get you in trouble for including extra stuff from the IRS, but including tax documents for like filing income tax or something for your business, that's just ahead of your timeline. So our timeline is really just like birthing this business in the very beginning, right? Like you're turning in the basic government forms to create your business, and that initial first organizational meeting, you've got notes, meeting minutes from that first meeting showing me that you are following those business formalities. From my previous experience, working as an attorney, specifically when I worked for the U.S. trustee in bankruptcy court, I recognize that a lot of small business owners don't maintain those business formalities, and it can really hurt them in a situation where they're trying to maintain that separation of themselves as an individual business owner, and the business itself. And if you are being sued or you're in bankruptcy or something like that, where you really need that bubble of protection separating you from the business and showing that this business exists as a legal persona separate from you, having those business records really helps to reinforce, that situation where it's a separate entity. Because if someone's trying to sue you, they want to pierce that corporate veil, right? They want to say, you are no different from the business, therefore I can attach to the business assets and to your personal assets. When you've got too much commingled funds and you're not keeping good records and stuff like that, you might be trying to say that you're a single member LLC, but really what the facts objectively show is that you're still just operating as a sole proprietorship. You're not actually going through the effort to keep that separation. And I want my students coming out of this project and out of this class understanding the importance of some of those business formalities. So it might feel silly to write notes if you're a single owner of the, you're the 100% shareholder of the corporation, or you're a single member of the LLC. But I promise that keeping those records can help you prove to the world, that you're taking it seriously and that you are maintaining that this is an entity you're creating and has stands on its own 2 feet, so to speak, virtual feet.
Then another question. So I'm doing a single member LLC. How would you do your meeting minutes?
I didn't hear the question. How did I what?
How would you do your minutes if like you're like a single.
Oh, yeah, like your meeting, okay, so it's just gonna be a separate page of your project. And you know, say like, I don't know what the name of your pretend business is, but like, you'll just say like, I, David, met by myself, you know, on November 12th. I met at the Ingram Library. I voted unanimously to adopt my operating agreement. I decided I need to purchase a website or maybe some office space, you know, so I can, you know, get this business going. I mean, just whatever pretend stuff might be appropriate at that initial meeting. But the thing is keeping that record, even though you as an individual owner all by yourself are very unlikely to forget what you've done, keeping that record, again, it's for the business itself. And as you're forming this separate entity that's not a sole proprietorship, it's separate from you and can be sold to someone else. And so those records can stay with the business and can show, you know, how decisions were made, what decisions were made, you know, and keeping that record and keeping this, you know, keeping that record as a business formality is really useful with all that kind of stuff. So you'll just indicate, you know, the date, the time, what you did, because remember, a record of a meeting is a little bit different than just the agenda for a meeting. The agenda is what you hope to talk about or decide, but a record of a meeting, if you've ever been in a club, like, and people read the minutes from the previous meeting, they're not telling you just what they hope to discuss, they're telling you what they actually did discuss or what they did decide. So make sure that your record of your first organizational meeting reads like that. It reads like what you did do, what you did decide. And then it's also always a great idea for any of these things to have a little signature block at the bottom where, you know, you already said the date and time of the meeting, but then you also say that, you know, your signature, what your capacity is for signing, again, to tell the world, like, this isn't just my name, this is my name and this is who I am. I'm the owner of this business. I'm the member of this LLC, that kind of thing. And then, you know, that way you're taking it from like a draft of notes taken at a meeting to the official record of the meeting.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question. Do we need to show applications for like a business bank account and credit cards?
No, you don't need to have it. And stuff like that wouldn't probably be available on any of the websites I've given you too. So, you know, definitely don't need to include any kind of forms that comes from any website other than, you know, the 3 that are approved. And honestly, like 90% of everybody is only going to need stuff from the 2 government websites and not the OCGA website.
Thank you.
Anybody else here live or on the Zoom call have any questions? It's gonna be like the shortest class ever.
We're good. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll have questions as we're going.
Of course, if you guys have questions later on,
We're
you know, you can
gonna-
always email me, text me or whatever.
We're gonna see like, figure out like all the documents we need.
Mhm.
And then we'll submit it to you and make sure that we're not missing any.
Okay.
So if we had submitted, let's say Friday, do you think you'll have like some feedback before you go on your trip?
Oh, yeah, I
Because
mean,
it's due next Sunday.
the original deadline I gave you guys for feedback was like Wednesday at 5 o'clock or Wednesday at midnight or something.
Okay.
But yeah, I can go a few days beyond that. I suspect that since I pushed the deadline back, that I'll have a lot more people with drafts this week that we're preparing to like turn it in. And so I may get overloaded with drafts. So I definitely will probably cut off drafts like Friday this week for guaranteed feedback. That doesn't mean you're not allowed to ask me questions or send me stuff.
Yeah.
It just means that I can't guarantee that you'll get feedback if you send it beyond this week. So the sooner the better. Because like I said, I still am trying to catch up from stuff that came in at the end of last week and early this week.
Okay. Perfect. That's all I'm interested.
Anybody else on Zoom have any questions? Let me double check the chat and see if anybody typed anything. I don't see anything in the chat. Okay. Well, I guess I'll let y'all go and like I said, if you think of anything else that you want to ask later on, feel free to email me, and I will get this video downloaded. I'll go upstairs to my office, download it and try to upload it and have it posted as soon as I can get it posted. I heard somebody just sign on, I think. Before I close out this call, whoever just signed on, did you have a question you wanted to ask? Okay. Like I said, if anybody has any questions you think of later on, or if you're watching this video and have some questions that weren't addressed here, just send me an email or we can set up a one-on-one Zoom or office visit or something. I hope y'all have a great day. Bye.